Hey everyone, let's have a look at some of the best options for the Porsche Cayenne when it comes to resale value. Now I know what you might be thinking, what do I know about car resale? Am I a used car salesperson or a mechanic or whatever the case might be? Well, the answer to that is no, but I do own a used Porsche Cayenne. I am in finance, I have written a book on corporate valuation, I have a PhD in finance, so I know a little bit about how markets work and how prices are set. Admittedly primarily in the corporate field, but nevertheless I've gotten some experience in this arena as well. So I'm going to give you my thoughts about the best options to get for a Porsche Cayenne, in particular with a focus on resale down the track. Now before we get there, if you have any thoughts about the best options to take on, do drop those in the comments below. Otherwise it would be wonderful if you click the like and subscribe buttons. Alright, so when I'm talking about resale and best options for resale, I'm really looking at two things. A, the price that you sell at, and B, the speed at which you sell the car, because both of those are relevant. If your sale takes forever to get across the line, you have an opportunity cost in the form of financing or in the form of you being able to do something with the cash you couldn't otherwise get earlier. In any case, you want to try to sell it quickly and for as much money as possible. So that's what I'm really focusing on here. Now when we've got options, they fall into really a couple of categories. Cosmetic options and also performance or capability options. And those are two different things that are going to be slightly different in terms of relevance for your market. So for example, the capability type options are going to be very different from if you live in a major city versus living in a rural area, where some of those things might be differently necessary depending on the market you're in. I'm going to be primarily focusing this on sort of city/urban type living because that's where I live, in the inner city of Sydney, and that's where I've been driving my Porsche Cayenne. Okay, so let's have a look at some of the best options. The first things I'm going to focus on are the pure cosmetic things, color and interior. In terms of color, we have three stratifications of color. We basically have the ordinary colors that come for free. You've got the special metallic type colors, which in Australian dollars cost 2,000 more. And you also have the very special colors, which in Australian dollars cost $5,000 more. The exact numbers here are obviously going to vary depending on the market you're in. And obviously in the US, they're going to be slightly smaller, but the same basic logic applies when you're looking at scaling through these options. Alright, so in terms of the best for resale here, to my mind, you've only really got one option, and that's going to be the navy metallic. And I'll explain why that's the case. In a prior video, I've actually discussed that there are two underlying categories here, boring colors and interesting colors. The boring colors are basically things like white, black, and those types of colors. Silver would fall into those categories. If you're going for a boring color, just go for white. The reason I just go for white is that black wears worse and will look dirty easier. Silver is no more interesting than white, so you might as well just go for white, and white is free. I'd skip the white metallic because it costs more and no buyer in the resale market is really going to notice. Similarly with the black metallic, which wears better, but if you actually do what you're supposed to and get the car washed before you take it for inspection, then you won't really tell the difference. So hence why I'd go for white if I'm going with boring. The reason I defer to blue metallic over white is the blue metallic will help you stand out. So invariably when people are browsing through cars, people will see a sea of white and silver and black cars, and they might want something a little bit different from what everyone else has. Now the navy metallic is not uncommon, but it's certainly not going to be a boring color to the same extent. Hence why I'd spend the slightly more money on the navy metallic. It will also wear better than the white and black, look dirty more difficultly than the white and black, so it's going to be a little bit of a better option. And for 2,000 Australian dollars more, would be worth it. We also have the special options. So for example, lava. Now I really like the lava orange. I think it's a great color. I would personally have it on my car if I didn't care about resale. The reason I say that is it's 5,000 Australian dollars, is an interesting color. For a specific section of the market, it will get the sale across the line very quickly. However, it is a little bit polarizing. Some people don't really like the lava as much. It costs quite a bit more. I would be doubtful that it will actually get you much more in the resale over the navy blue. And it's also more difficult to match with other interiors, so if you really want a two-tone interior, it's a little bit more difficult to actually match it with if you're going down that route. So hence why I'd go with the navy metallic. Our next cosmetic option is effectively going to be in relation to the wheels. Now in relation to the wheels, I keep those basically with the standard or close enough to standard as humanly possible. The reason I do that is when you're having to go through these wheel iterations, you're going to be spending more and more money for each of these wheels. Some of these wheels cost many more thousands of dollars. Even if you want to change from silver to black, it costs you thousands of dollars more. Personally, I like the black wheels. Now with navy, it's not really a major issue, but I prefer black myself. Now to do that, I just go to an aftermarket shop, get them to paint my wheels. It would cost a lot more than the thousands that Porsche is going to charge you. So I would basically just go with the ordinary silver wheels here. I wouldn't really spend any more money on them, unless there's a particular performance reason for doing so in a particular rural environment. In the city, when you're looking at these adverts for Porsche Cayennes, no one is really going through, well, is this wheel 20 inches or 21 inches or whatever? No one is really looking at that. So I just go with the base wheels, maybe get them painted black in the aftermarket, but I just leave them silver for the moment, because no one's going to pay you more for black wheels. In terms of wheel accessories, same basic logic applies. The only real accessory that's relevant is basically going to be the center locks. So that can be either color or it can be silver. I'd go with color because color looks a little bit more interesting. I think it's a good accent with the metallic blue. I don't think you'll get any more money for it, but it will be a kind of neat feature to have. So it's going to look slightly better, help the sale to some extent, and it will be nice to have. It's 340 Australian dollars, not the biggest expense in the world, admittedly maybe not the most useful resale-wise, but still not bad. In terms of other cosmetic things, we then have the seats and the leather. Now in terms of the interior, I'd basically only really have the ordinary standard black interior. I wouldn't bother with the brushed aluminium, I wouldn't bother with the wood, and I wouldn't bother with carbon interiors, because no one's paying you more in a Cayenne for the carbon interior. The wood interior, to my mind, looks old, so I just ignore that as well. I just go with plain leather, and if I'm going with the metallic blue, I'd basically go with the very cheap two-tone leather. Now there's a few different types of two-tones. You've got the cheap one, which is 750 Australian dollars, and you have the expensive ones, which cost thousands. When you're going to sell it, no one is going to be able to tell the difference without them being put side by side. So I'd basically just go with the cheap one. It will still be able to be sold as a two-tone interior. It's going to be leather. It will look perfectly fine. So I would not go for spending thousands more on these other full leather options, which are going to get you very little value interior-wise. They'll cost thousands more and not really contribute anything. Now, in terms of the other miscellaneous cosmetic options, we have a few ones. So we have like the door sill lights where it will project Porsche onto the floor when you open the doors. Gimmicky, it's not that expensive. You can get it done cheap in the aftermarket. I wouldn't really bother. To some extent, it might help to get the sale across the line with people who have never seen it before. With a lot of people, they just won't care. Some people think that it's naff and useless. So it's really going to depend on what type of market you're selling into. I would say it's not really worth the effort. We've got other cosmetic things such as these various sports packages that change the outside look of the car. To be totally honest, they all cost thousands of dollars. They all look so similar to the base exterior that you can't tell the difference between the base exterior and these other packages. The only thing you can maybe get from it is the ability to put sports package as a dot point on your sales brochure. So that's the only benefit you get. I would personally not bother because it doesn't really contribute anything other than a couple of accents around the car. And you can't really tell the difference in day-to-day driving. So I would say it's not a good option in terms of resale. So that basically summarizes my views on the cosmetic options for resale. The next issue we have, of course, is the performance type options for resale. So that's performance and capabilities. So if the base Cayenne, there's not really that much point going down any other types of performance options unless they're really off-road focused. Now, off-road focused options, I personally don't have. They're personally not going to be that useful in an inner city environment. For people who want to be able to take it off-road, those are useful things to have. I would say that get those if you're going to be in a rural environment or you think there's a large number of buyers who will take it into an environment where those capabilities are required. Otherwise, I would ignore it. I'd say the similar thing for the towing hitch for the car. Now, it costs a couple of $1,000s. If you're going to be towing things, get it. If you're not going to be towing things, then you have to consider, are my potential buyers going to be towing things? Those could be buyers that live near an area that has boats, they could live near farms, they could have any number of other things. If you don't have potential buyers who are going to be like that, I would ignore the tow hitch. So in an inner city area, I'd say it's not great for resale value, and it won't really get the sale across the line because a lot of inner city buyers won't really care that much. However, if there's a certain number of buyers who are going to be from country areas, then I'd get it. So to be specific here, If you live in an environment, say you're in a city in the US, which has quite a lot of rural influx, then in that case, you'd be better off getting it. If you live in a major city, maybe, so for example, New York or Sydney, then it's not really worth the effort. The other performance type option might be a sunroof. Now, admittedly, it's a bit cosmetic as well, but nevertheless, I'll put it into the capabilities type section. Now, I personally loathe sunroofs. I really hate having them. I would personally buy a car without a sunroof over buying one with a sunroof, but that's because I don't like them. The overwhelming majority of buyers do prefer them, and therefore the sunroof will probably add value. Now, you can get a panoramic one or just a half sunroof. I would go with the panoramic one because if you're going to spend more money, you might as well get the full sunroof, which is going to have a slightly cooler effect than just a small one at the front. Now, in that case, it costs about $4,700. Will you get your money back? Probably not. You never get all of your money back with these options, unless it's something really weird and wonderful. But you will get part of the money back. There will be a section of the buyers who do want a sunroof, and you'll be able to cater to that section. The number of buyers who don't want a sunroof is not particularly large, so it's going to help. I wouldn't say it's a must-have in terms of resale, but I'd say that it's a useful one to have, and quite a lot of buyers will like it and will want it, and it can help distinguish your car from one that doesn't have the sunroof. That said, in the used car market, say we're looking at 6 years down the track, you're not going to get $4,700 more for your sunroof. You will get a little bit more, and or the sale might go ahead quicker, but it certainly is not going to be the be-all and end-all of your sale. Put differently, it's not a terrible one to have, but I wouldn't really bother with having it. Now, in terms of the other performance and capability options, I generally just leave all of those to a side. So I wouldn't really bother upgrading the media, for example, because the sound is perfectly okay. It's very doubtful that anyone will pay you more for having slightly upgraded sound in a car like this. When you're looking at selling a used Cayenne, you're typically selling it to people who would want a good car, a good quality car, from a well-known brand that is known for its quality and reliability, and don't necessarily want to spend a huge amount of money in this used car market. Hence why over-speccing it is not necessarily the best option. Alright, so those are my views on which options I'd go for if I was speccing a Porsche Cayenne, particularly with a mind toward resale. I basically have very few options here. I would have the blue metallic. I'd have that two-tone interior in Australian dollars that's going to cost me about $2,700. Then I add on those the color wheel caps. That adds on another $300 or $340. So all up, I'm looking at about $3,000 in options. I would generally not spec the other ones because I wouldn't expect those to translate much in terms of resale value, and I would keep it relatively minimally spec'd. When you go around to selling it, always make sure that before the inspection, the car is properly cleaned and if need be detailed. Make sure that you fix up any rims that you've curbed because that will kill resale value and it will cost you very little to fix up. So a lot of car wash places will do this. I know one that in Sydney does it for $150 about $150 a wheel. I'm sure that some of you can find it cheaper. Nevertheless, it's going to save you a lot of money if you actually get it done when you're translating it into the resale price. Anyway, those are my thoughts on the best options in terms of resale for the Porsche Cayenne. If you have any other thoughts on this, drop those in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Otherwise, it would be great if you click the like and subscribe buttons, and I hope to see you next time. Bye.